Welcome back to the Phuble podcast, a podcast where we talk about all financial markets around the world. I'm Phil Monvianis. This podcast is sponsored by Phuble, the social networking platform for any and all investors. Today is Sunday, May 3rd, and we're just going to talk about the coronavirus's current impact on the financial markets and future impact on those same markets. I apologize for not having my usual setup. I currently do not have access to the place where I normally shoot the Phuble podcast, so this is going to have to do. I have not posted a video in a while, just because I did not want to give misinformation about the financial markets or give predictions in a really uncertain time. But now that things have kind of settled down and there's actually a clear outlook, I think, for the future of this whole virus and its effect on the markets, I thought it was a proper time to come out with a sort of turning point podcast in this whole thing. My prediction for the future is this: if the United States can open effectively by at the latest June 10th, and the rest of the world as well. As we speak, there's a lot of countries that are currently relaxing quarantine restrictions in Europe, and that is also important for the financial markets. But the most important factor for my prediction is that the US opens to about 80% of normal functioning economic activity by June 10th, because the US consumer has been backing the entire financial market increase throughout the global economy throughout the past decade. If the United States can open to about 80% of normal functioning economic activity by June 10th, I predict that there's going to be a huge market increase, especially in the United States financial markets and all the major indices, but also the global economy. I think there's going to be a huge influx of cash being spent, which is going to drive earnings up, and I predict that the equity markets are going to increase substantially throughout the next 1 to 2 years. If the US does open, I predict there's going to be a real lack of saving among people, especially American consumers. Right now, citizens in most developed countries still have a cash pile laying around, so they are doing just fine, and they're still spending money, even during the quarantine. If companies can reopen and begin paying workers again and rehire furloughed workers, those people are going to have even more money. There's going to be a perception among all people that I need to live now, here in the moment, and not save for the future, because I don't know what's going to happen in the future. So I'm going to spend my money once I get it. I think through this spending increase, driven by the American consumer, companies are going to continue to hire. Thus, people are going to have more money to spend, and then they're going to keep spending. It's just going to be a positive reoccurring cycle for, I say, about 1 to 2 years. Now, after that period ends, I believe companies' financials are going to be overvalued. We are going to hit probably a mild recession. I think sometime in between the end of 2021 to the end of 2022, I think that the global economy is going to hit a recession based off real economic factors, based off overvaluation, based off companies borrowing debt because they can receive debt at cheap prices and not being able to pay that back. I think the euphoria throughout the world is going to last at least until the middle of 2022, where people are just going to spend money and they're not going to think about the future. They're going to think about the present. I believe that the coronavirus was actually the best thing to happen to the global economy, because it reeled in prices, it reeled in equity prices that were getting very overvalued. That being said, right now it was the best thing for the global economy. If this continues, there is going to be very negative repercussions that will drive the entire global economy into a depressionary state. Right now, I don't see that happening, because countries are starting to relax restrictions. People are going back to work. People are continuing to buy things. But it all depends on the United States. A lot of equities are undervalued right now. What is not undervalued are oil and gas companies. Not now or not ever would I buy an oil and gas company. This whole outbreak illustrates the instability of those companies in maintaining prices. Oil prices are going to be on a decline forever. They are never going to resume to their highs unless there is a world shortage of oil before countries can develop effectively renewable energy techniques. Oil is going to just keep declining. Other companies that I would not invest in right now are biopharmaceutical companies, especially those targeting the coronavirus. These companies have diverted resources away from their normal pipeline activity, so they are focusing all on one drug. I believe once there is a vaccine for this virus, people will have already returned back to a normal lifestyle. They're going to be used to living with the virus, so they're going to be less inclined to get that vaccine. I think the financial effects on whoever develops this vaccine will be similar to those who develop flu vaccines. You're going to see the same general increase in revenues from the coronavirus as you do from any biopharmaceutical company that develops a flu vaccine. I don't think it's going to be significant. I think there's going to be a lot of like companies that divert resources away from their normal activity to stop this thing, which is going to hurt them in the long term. The company that does develop this vaccine is not going to receive any real substantial profitability increases from doing that. The company that does develop the vaccine will be overvalued as well, and it will not be able to match the projections that Wall Street has given it. It is good that a lot of companies are trying to attack this thing, but long term it's going to hurt those companies. So be very careful when you're investing in biopharmaceutical companies right now. The technology sector is a great sector. They're going to keep earning money even through this time. They will be earning an increase in revenue through this time because more people are going to be using those applications and those platforms. I believe the hospitality sector will see an increase, a really big booming increase after this is ending. Once again, these predictions are based solely on the fact that the US will open by the beginning of June. Thank you so much for watching the Phuble podcast, and happy investing.